Hello YouTube, Reg Reed. Thank you for joining me. We're going to do a Bible review on this. This is the SBL Study Bible. SBL stands for Society of Biblical Literature. This is in the New Revised Standard Version, updated edition, and it also includes the apocryphal deuterocanonical books. Now this I picked up on Amazon. It was around $60. Before we get into looking at this, I need to tell you what this Bible is intended for. Now, this is not a Bible that is devotional or evangelical by any means. This is not a study Bible that you would give to a teenager or somebody who's new in their faith. This is intended more for seminary, university students, pastors, people who want to understand the historical context and the historical background behind the Bible. It's going to have a lot of liberal theology. And in fact, the Society of Biblical Literature, and there are contributors to this Bible that are of different faiths. For example, you would have Jewish people and Islam, Muslims, that have contributed to this book. So this is a more secular study Bible that actually looks into kind of the history of the Bible and its context. You're going to see a number of contributors here. And it is going to come from a more liberal perspective. And we will look at a couple of examples of that. There are, in a few places, different images. The images are not in color. And I guess one of the biggest complaints about this particular Bible and the physical aspect of this Bible is, I don't know how well it comes through on this video, but there is an awful lot of ghosting that can, in some places, be distracting. Introduction to the Hebrew Bible and Old Testament. Now, one thing, and this is one of my pet peeves, I don't know why this bothers me, but it does, it irks me. You'll notice here they use BCE and CE, which stands for Before the Common Era and Common Era, rather than BC, Before Christ, or AD, Anno Domini. Just one of those things that just kind of drives me nuts. Now, one of the things that this Bible also does is it tends to state that it does not believe that Moses actually wrote the Pentateuch. So, liberal in that regard. A lot of evangelicals and more conservative Christians tend to believe that Moses did, in fact, write the Pentateuch. Now, there must have been, in some places, somebody kind of picked up the writing after Moses died, because there is some writings that talk about Moses' death. So Moses couldn't have written those. But I believe, personally, that Moses probably did write the Pentateuch. So what you're going to see is this is double columned. There are no references in the text. There are notes, and the notes are fairly concise. They're not spiritual. They are not devotional. They are more critical of the text. They would more point out things that was common in the writings of the day. You do have these articles occasionally throughout the text. And the thing about this Bible is it actually tells you who wrote each one of these little articles. So if you want to look more into it and who wrote it, it's right there. That I do like. I do like the fact that it does that. So this is just flipping through. These are your pages. There's another example of an image. And again, you see that bleed through of the text behind. So I don't know if that's something about the quality of the paper, the thickness of the paper, or the ink. I don't know. But there is a lot of ghosting. This does include the Apocrypha, and it says so right on the title, the cover. So you are going to get these deuterocanonical books that some denominations, the Catholics, they would include some Apocrypha books. The Eastern Orthodox Church, they have some deuterocanonical books as well. So then you have these little articles. The historical Jesus. It doesn't have a ton of maps. If I can flip this page here, because I can see that there is a map here. There's not a ton of maps in here, not very many. Might be a couple. Another reason why this Bible would be considered liberal is because it seems to believe that Paul didn't write all the epistles that is generally attributed to Paul. It would make an argument here that, for example, Ephesians was written probably by a student of Paul after Paul's death. It also believes that 2 Corinthians was a combination of a couple of different epistles or letters. Here's an example of it being liberal. So it has a viewpoint on LGBTQIA plus interpretations, and it would take the position that the Bible does not condemn such practices, and in fact, it seems to believe that, like David and Jonathan and Ruth and Naomi, as examples of queer and non-heterosexual relationships and families. Now, there's a lot of debate about that. Was David and Jonathan, were they in a romantic relationship? Or were they just very close friends looking at each other as kind of brothers? That's a debate that we're not going to settle here on this video. But let's see if we can go to, here, I'll show you, I mentioned this, but let me just show you what I was talking about. When we go to the introduction, and that's where this Bible really shines, is on the book introductions. So, where did I read that here? Where it says that Paul, there it is there. It is not in fact Paul's second letter to the Corinthians, but a combination of multiple letters. The present form of 2 Corinthians contains some of the most profound religious ideas in all Paul's writings, particularly regarding the death of Jesus. So that, that very well may be true. And then let's go to Ephesians, because it takes the position, or at least presents the position, that Paul didn't in fact write Ephesians. A clear consensus of biblical scholarship holds that a Pauline disciple, otherwise unknown, wrote Ephesians in the final decades of the 1st century. So it would take that position. Now let's have a look at the back, and let's see what's in the back here. So of course you get an article on 666. Thus code word most likely Nero Caesar, which yields 666 when translated from Greek into Hebrew. That is what I believe. I do take a partial preterist view, and I do believe that the beast was in fact Nero. So there's no articles or anything in the back. However, it does go in and give credit where credit is due, I suppose. So that is, in a nutshell, the SBL Study Bible. And this was originally called the HarperCollins Study Bible. They kind of updated it, and now it is the SBL Study Bible. So a lot of really interesting information. Of course, I don't agree with everything in it because it is from a more secular viewpoint and interpretation. But nonetheless, there is some fascinating stuff in here that really... for a pastor, for somebody who is grounded in their faith and can take things with a grain of salt, I think that this Bible, this study Bible, might be of benefit to you. So until next time, God bless.